There is a silence in the sands of Egypt, a silence that stretches for centuries, soft as the desert wind, but heavy, like secrets never meant to be spoken. Most know the names of pharaohs, Ramses, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun. But few speak of the women who walked beside them, or sometimes far ahead of them. They weren't just queens, they were priestesses of power, guardians of bloodlines, mothers of magic, and sometimes rulers of death. Their names were etched in stone, then erased. Their eyes, painted across tomb walls, now watch you in the dark, not with sorrow, but with secrets. Tonight, we travel not just into Egypt, but into the shadows of its queens. Let us begin with Queen Tiye, a name the world tried to forget, but Egypt never could. She was not born royal, no godlike birth, no divine blood, just a commoner girl, with eyes that saw too much. But Pharaoh Amenhotep III saw something in her. Not just beauty, Egypt had plenty, but a mind that moved like the Nile. Quiet, relentless, impossible to control. He married her, not as a concubine, not as a second wife, but as his equal. He broke royal tradition, and the priests hated it. But Tiye? She didn't just sit beside the throne, she advised it. Letters written to foreign rulers were addressed to her first. She met foreign envoys, alone. She corresponded with kings from Mesopotamia. She had a voice in every matter of state, a queen, in a time when queens were ornaments, and yet that was not her true power. Her true power lay in what she whispered to her son, Akhenaten. Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, the man who threw away Egypt's gods, built a new city, and worshipped only the sun. Historians still wonder, was it his madness or was it Tiye's dream? You see, Tiye was raised in the temples. She knew the weight of religion, the power it gave to men in robes. But Tiye wanted something different, a simpler god. A sun god. A god that needed no priest. She couldn't tear down the temples herself, but her son could. Akhenaten obeyed her like a shadow, even when the priests threatened rebellion, even when famine began, even when statues of the old gods were smashed. Through it all, Tiye stayed in power, her image still carved next to her son's, her name still written in sacred gold. But then, she vanished. No tomb, no funeral texts, no clear death. Just silence, as if Egypt swallowed her whole, like it was afraid of what she might whisper, even in death. And while her story fades into shadow, there are queens whose names became legends, and whose legends became dangerous. In the next chapter, we meet Hatshepsut, the queen who became a king. A woman so powerful, her stepson tried to erase her from history. But the stones, they remember, stay with me. Part 2. The Queen Who Became a King. Before Cleopatra's seductions, before Nefertiti's golden mask, there was Hatshepsut, a woman who refused to be just a footnote, and instead became Pharaoh. Yes, not queen. Pharaoh. In a kingdom where the divine right to rule flowed only through the veins of men, Hatshepsut did the unthinkable. She took the throne and declared herself a living god. But the story begins with a death. Her father, Thutmose I, was a strong ruler. Her mother, a queen of noble blood. And Hatshepsut, their brilliant daughter, raised in temples, trained in rituals, fluent in politics before she ever wore a crown. When her father died, the throne passed not to her, but to her half-brother, Thutmose II. She became his queen. Yes, her half-brother. In Egypt, royalty was often kept within the bloodline, but marriage didn't give her power, only proximity. Then, Thutmose II died, and the throne passed again, this time to Thutmose III. A child, a boy too young to rule, too small to carry the crook and flail, too soft for the weight of a kingdom. So, Hatshepsut became regent, a caretaker, a shadow ruler. But the shadow grew taller than the throne, and one day, she simply stopped pretending. She donned the ceremonial beard. She wore the pharaoh's crown. She stood in the sacred temple of Karnak and declared to the gods and the people, "I am the daughter of Amun, born of divine light, chosen to rule." The priests gasped, the nobles whispered, "A woman, a king," but Egypt obeyed. You see, Hatshepsut did not seize the throne with force. She wrapped herself in legacy, draped in prophecy, and built her power stone by stone. She launched expeditions to Punt, a mysterious land rich with myrrh and incense. Her ships returned with gold, giraffes, and exotic treasures, and the temples sang her name in perfume. She built grand monuments, the most famous, her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. It rose from the cliffs like a prayer, elegant, symmetrical, eternal. No female ruler had ever claimed so much, and none would again for centuries. She reigned peacefully for over 2 decades. Egypt flourished. The gods were pleased. But when she died, the erasure began. Her stepson, Thutmose III, was grown and angry. He had waited in her shadow his whole life. After her death, he ordered her name scraped off the walls, her statues shattered, her legacy buried. For centuries, no one spoke of Hatshepsut. No records, no mention, just a missing queen in the royal lineage. It was as if she never existed, but stone remembers. In the 19th century, archaeologists uncovered a broken statue, a face worn but regal, and beneath it, a single glyph remained. Matkare. Hatshepsut's throne name. Truth is the soul of Ra. Her voice had returned, soft, ancient, unbroken. But Egypt has more secrets to give, more queens hidden behind the veil. In the next chapter, we meet Nefertiti, the queen of radiant beauty, whose disappearance still puzzles the world. She was more than just a face on a mask. She was power, mystery, and maybe something far darker. Stay with me. Part 3. The Vanishing Queen. She has become a face, a symbol of grace carved in gold and stone. Nefertiti. Her name means, "The beautiful one has come." And oh, how she came. Like a storm wrapped in silk. Like a goddess pretending to be mortal. You've seen her, even if you don't remember. That famous bust, the one-eyed, perfectly symmetrical face. It sits in silence inside a Berlin museum, watching, waiting. But behind that beauty lies a darker story, a mystery so deep, it vanishes halfway through time. Nefertiti wasn't just beautiful. She was dangerous. She ruled alongside Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, the son of Queen Tiye. Together, they did what no other royal couple dared. They shut down the temples. They defied the priests. They told the people, there is no god but Aten, the sun disk. Not Amun, not Osiris, only light, only one. And they didn't just say it. They moved the entire capital, built a new city called Amarna, a city for the sun, a kingdom of light. And Nefertiti stood at the center of it all, not behind her husband, but beside him. She appeared in royal carvings, not just worshipping Aten, but receiving rays of divine light upon her face, as if she too were divine. Sometimes she was even depicted smiting enemies, a role reserved only for kings. So who was she? Some say she was foreign-born, a Mitanni princess, a gift of peace. Others believe she was Egyptian nobility, a priest's daughter trained in secret rites. Perhaps the daughter of Ai, who later became Pharaoh. Some whispers even call her Smenkhkare, a name used by a mysterious pharaoh who ruled briefly after Akhenaten. Could it be she ruled alone as king, not queen? We don't know, because one day she disappeared. No fanfare, no burial, no royal goodbye. One moment she was the queen of Egypt, the next, gone. Some believe she died in a plague, others say she was exiled. Some even whisper she became Nefertiti, a female pharaoh who ruled under a different name, but no tomb has ever been found, no mummy confirmed, only statues, broken images, defaced. A woman once worshipped like a goddess, now wiped from memory. Was she too powerful, too radiant to leave in the hands of history? Perhaps Egypt feared her, or perhaps Egypt forgot her. But in the silence, her legend grew. Even now, archaeologists dig beneath the sands of Amarna, listening for echoes, looking for a lost queen who refused to die quietly. A woman whose face outlived her story, a face that stares at you, beautiful, incomplete, and asking, "Do you really know me?" But Egypt has one more queen to give us, one more tale, full of seduction, power, and betrayal. She was the last queen of Egypt. A lover of emperors, a goddess to some, a threat to others. Her name? Cleopatra. But forget the Hollywood version. Tonight, you'll meet the real woman, and the forbidden truth she tried to carry into death. Stay with me. Part 4. The Last Queen of Egypt. There is a moment at the end of every empire, a breath held in the dark, a whisper before silence, and in Egypt's final breath, there stood a woman, not hidden behind her king, not cloaked in myth, but glowing, burning, brilliant in defiance. Her name was Cleopatra VII Philopator. Not the first Cleopatra, but the last. And when Rome came for Egypt, she didn't run. She looked it in the eyes and offered a smile sharp enough to pierce through iron. Forget what the world tells you. Cleopatra was not just beauty. She was brilliance. She spoke at least 9 languages. She studied astronomy, medicine, diplomacy, and alchemy. She wasn't even fully Egyptian. She was Macedonian Greek, descended from Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's generals. But unlike her male ancestors, Cleopatra embraced the Egyptian soul. She learned the language of the people, something her dynasty had refused to do for generations. She walked the streets in linen, barefoot, with incense and prayer. She rebranded herself as the reincarnation of Isis, the goddess mother of all. And the people? They adored her. But adoration would not save her, because Rome was watching, and Rome was hungry. Julius Caesar came first. When he arrived in Alexandria, Cleopatra didn't plead for mercy. She arrived in a rug, rolled up and carried into his chambers, unfurled at his feet like a mystery unwrapped, and Caesar was captivated. She gave him a son, Caesarion, Little Caesar. She secured Egypt's independence, briefly, but after Caesar's assassination, the tides turned again. Enter Mark Antony. He was a Roman general. She was a living goddess. Together, they became legend. Their love wasn't just passion, it was politics. They shared power, land, and strategy. But Rome saw danger. The Senate whispered. Octavian, Caesar's heir, called her a witch, a seductress, a threat. War followed. At the Battle of Actium, Antony and Cleopatra's fleets burned, their allies betrayed them, and Rome marched toward Egypt, hungry for its gold and its queen. In the final days, Cleopatra hid in her mausoleum, a fortress of treasure and death. Mark Antony, wounded and broken, died in her arms. And Cleopatra, she prepared for her own end. Legends say she took her life with an asp, a serpent hidden in a basket of figs, but no one knows for sure. Some say it was poison, Others say Octavian ordered her death. Her body was never found. Her tomb, a mystery, still lost to the sands. But her legend survived, twisted, retold, romanticized. Rome made her into a villain. Hollywood made her into a fantasy. But in truth, she was a ruler, a strategist, a woman who stared down an empire and left behind a legacy of forbidden power. Cleopatra wasn't just the last queen of Egypt. She was Egypt's final breath, a flame that refused to dim. And so, we close the scroll. Tiye, Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, Cleopatra. 4 queens, 4 storms, each erased, defaced, forgotten, and yet still unforgettable. But this isn't the end. In the final chapter, you'll hear what the historians missed, the real forbidden secrets. Whispers buried beneath hieroglyphs, clues hidden in tombs, and the mysterious truth about why Egypt feared its queens, more than it feared any man. Stay with me. Part 5. What Egypt Tried to Bury. Forever. Every civilization tells 2 stories, the one written in scrolls and carved in stone, and the one whispered between breaths, buried beneath tombs, hidden in the shadows of power. Egypt was no different. The men wore crowns, the priests held scrolls, the warriors bore swords. But behind the veil, in the silence of moonlit halls and sandalwood-scented chambers, it was the queens who moved the world, and Egypt feared them for it. You see, ancient Egypt was never just a patriarchy. It was a paradox. While kings were hailed as sons of gods, queens were worshipped as goddesses themselves, not equal. Greater, Isis, Hathor, Sekhmet, all-powerful, divine, and feminine. So when a woman embodied these traits in flesh, she became dangerous. Not just beautiful, not just political, but divine, and divinity, when real, terrifies the mortal order. That is why Tiye's name was stripped. That is why Hatshepsut's statues were shattered. Why Nefertiti vanished. Why Cleopatra's. Death was wrapped in confusion and myth. They were too much, too clever, too beloved, too enduring. So the men of their time, and the historians after, tried to silence them. But Egypt couldn't forget. There are signs if you look closely. On temple walls, a female figure stands behind the throne, but her foot overlaps the king's. In the Valley of the Kings, a tomb built for a man contains cosmetics jars, perfume bottles, and inscriptions written in a woman's tense. A papyrus found in Deir el-Medina speaks of a queen who ruled in secret after the death of her husband, using dreams and prophecies to control the priests. And some believe the mummy labeled as Unknown Woman A was a queen punished in death. Her, mouth open in a scream, her arms bound. Why? Because she dared to command an army. They erased her name, but not her echo. Even the language tells the truth. The ancient Egyptian word for king was Nesu, but the word for queen, Hemet Nesu. She who is the king's flame, not his support, not his servant, his fire. And fire in Egypt meant transformation and destruction. Queens weren't ornaments, they were omens. Now think, why is it that so many of their tombs remain lost? Tiye's missing, Nefertiti's undiscovered, Cleopatra's swallowed by time. Some say it's coincidence, but perhaps it was intentional. Perhaps Egypt wanted them forgotten, because memory gives power, and those women, they had enough of it to shatter empires. But tonight, in the silence of your sleepless hour, you've heard them again. You've walked past the golden masks, through candle-lit halls, and into the forbidden rooms of history. You've seen what the scrolls won't say. You've heard what the tombs still whisper. These queens were not erased. They were hidden, for you to find, for us to remember, and now, perhaps you'll never look at Egyptian history the same again. So if your eyes are still open, and your heart is a little heavier with wonder, let this be your final thought tonight. Power is not always loud. Sometimes it wears coal-lined eyes, whispers in ancient tongues, and waits in the dark. This was Sleepless Secrets. Good night, and may your dreams be ruled by queens.